Usually, each year, Cedar Fair will add one major new coaster to a park, and then the others will get a new flat ride or a water park addition. But if a park is lucky, then they might get a few new trash cans. Cedar Fair bases their decisions on new capital off of what they think will be the most successful attraction for the park. And while most of the time that all works out as planned, but in this case, as you're about to find out, with these worst ride decisions for each park, not every attraction was very thought out or a good decision. California's Great America, and I'm gonna have to say the field that replaced Invertigo. Seriously, a park that at the time had a mediocre coaster lineup since Cedar Fair removed the park's Vekoma inverted boomerang in 2010. And better yet, it took them 8 years to finally build something on this parcel. But I feel like I'm dipping out of the topic of this video for Great America. So I will say the attraction that I think was the worst decision for the park has to be the Mass Effect. This motion simulator attraction seemed really cool when it was announced, but that was really about it, unfortunately. The next park on this list is one that has been in the news a lot in 2022. Knott's Berry Farm, and I have to give a tie to two different attractions, and those would be PERILOUS Plunge and WINDSEEKER. Starting with the park's new for 2000 attraction, PERILOUS Plunge was an intimate mega splash that stood 121 feet tall and featured a 77-degree angle of descent, which was by far one of the best drops on any water ride in the world. But sadly, in 2012, the park closed down the water ride forever for future expansion. While this attraction looked insane, does Knott's Berry Farm regret spending $9 million on this? And for $5 million, Knott's opened WINDSEEKER in 2011. But then, shortly after, the ride was closed for 11 months straight and then was relocated to Worlds of Fun. Now, it's time to head to the park that would trade 50 trash cans for Canada's Wonderland's Time Warp. Seriously, they would. Michigan's Adventure, and the worst ride decision is extremely easy for this great looking park. And while this attraction was never built at the park, I have to give the award to the rumored hypercoaster that was sadly never built. And if you don't know, apparently the park, which was family owned before Cedar Fair purchased it, had plans to add a new hypercoaster somewhere on property. But then Cedar Fair purchased the park and canceled those plans. Damn you, Cedar Fair. Just imagine pairing Shivering Timbers with an awesome hypercoaster. Oh, the possibilities. Dorney Park. If you would have told me that Demon Drop would still be in operation in 2022 after it was added to the park in 2010, I would say you're out of your mind. But it's reality, and here we are. Demon Drop is still throwing riders each day, and I'm all here for it. The worst ride decision Cedar Fair ever did with Dorney is adding and removing Stinger so quickly. I just find it so bizarre that Invertigo at Kings Island seems to have zero issues, but yet neither Great America or Dorney Park could figure out how to keep the Stinger happy. Instead, Dorney was home to a ride that was hardly ever open, and now we await the park to announce the new coaster in the coming months. And yes, my fingers are crossed as I said that. Next up is my home park, Carowinds, and in my opinion, the worst new ride decision would have to be adding Plants vs. Zombies. Even though the attraction also debuted the same year as Carolina Harbor did, this attraction really just didn't do a whole lot for the park, and it's hardly ever open. In fact, it's been rumored to be removed now for the last few years, and it appears that come 2023, it'll no longer be a part of Carowinds, which I must say I'm quite happy about that. So get your last rides in while you can, and if you really want to. King's Dominion. There are 2 years that I resonate with the most for this decision. The first would have to be in 2017, when there was some major hype around a new coaster coming to the park. They even hosted a media event in King's Dominion Theater to only announce 2 or 3 new kid rides, and this was only 4 short years after the park's massive new Planet Snoopy expansion with 8 new rides. So yeah, I think King's Dominion definitely learned from that and is never going to do that again. I also have to go with the park's Pro Slide Tornado, which opened in 2007, which was the first full year of Cedar Fair ownership. But sadly, this popular water ride closed forever in 2017. What I want to know is, why does Cedar Fair seem to have issues with these type of slides? We have seen another tornado removed from Knott's Soak City as well, but yet Kings Island still offers one, and to my knowledge, it suffers from very little downtime. And is it coincidence or not that like every other park outside of the Cedar Fair parks have zero issues with their tornadoes? And if you have any thoughts on this, please share that with me in your comments because I would love to know. Heading to the land of 10,000 lakes for Valleyfair. And for this park, I would have to go with the relocated skyscraper attraction that opened in 2005 and then closed in 2007. And once it closed, it was relocated to Cedar Point. If anyone knows as to why this upcharge attraction only lasted 2 seasons at Valleyfair, I would love to know. And then you have Dinosaurs Alive, which is now gone, and yet there is nothing new in this location. This area of the park has looked this way ever since the dinos went extinct. So I am curious if Cedar Fair had plans for this plot of land, but then COVID came in and screwed up corporate's plan. Who knows? But all I know is that this is the perfect location for a new roller coaster. Heading about 6 hours south to Worlds of Fun, and I'm gonna have to say, removing Winterfest. And yes, I do know that it gets cold in Missouri, but look, if Canada's Wonderland can pull in massive crowds for their Winterfest event, which by the way, no major coasters are even open, then Worlds of Fun should have been packed every night. No excuses to the residents living near the park. Now it's time to talk about the crown jewel of Cedar Fair, and that is the one and only Kings Island. Now before anyone gets flustered and upset with what I'm about to say, just hear me out, because I think you'll agree with me all said and done. Since Cedar Fair has taken over, I would have to say that Orion was the worst ride decision for Kings Island, and here is why. You can't tell me there's a coaster enthusiast out there who is not a little disappointed in the coaster's layout. Hell, I know non-coaster enthusiasts who were disappointed as well. And sure, the general public mostly loves Orion, because that's all they know. But for us, who have ridden or seen Fury 325, just know that Orion could have been so much more. But instead, Cedar Fair plopped in a Giga that runs along the backside of the racer, and in my opinion, has a pretty uninspiring layout. Now just imagine if after Orion's first drop, it goes into a high-speed curve to the left, and then the rest of the layout kind of follows the path as you see here, really showcasing the speed of the coaster with some low-to-the-ground turns, speed hills, a few tunnels, and even more airtime hills. Basically, think a 6,400 foot long terrain Giga that's located in the woods, paying major homage to the beast. Now don't get me wrong, Orion is a great ride, but you have to agree it could have been so much better. Canada's Wonderland, and this choice would have to be handed to Wonder Mountain's Guardian. This attraction was not cheap, and remember when this was added that Cedar Fair stated that they wanted to add more dark rides to the parks. Well yeah, that kinda didn't work out as planned, especially after the lackluster dark ride that was added to Knott's. Wonder Mountain's Guardian suffers from a lot of downtime and low capacity, so yes, this was a horrible decision for Cedar Fair considering that Canada's Wonderland is the busiest seasonal park in North America. And finally, America's Rock and Roller Coaster, Cedar Point. And this belongs to the seldomly opened former attraction known as Shoot the Rapids. The park's new for 2010 water ride cost over $10 million and then was closed in 2015. With a few incidents and downtime, this intimate water ride was a horrible decision from Cedar Fair. And ever since then, we've had to deal with Cedar Fair not working with Intamin. But I think that's gonna change soon. Now granted, at the time, the company probably didn't think any of these attractions were bad decisions. But with what we know now, these are all in my opinion, the worst ones. Which attractions do you think were the worst ones added to the Cedar Fair parks? Be sure to let me know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to smile today, think positive, and keep riding coasters.